Peace and blessings, and welcome to another helpful garden video from Green Life. On today's episode, we're going to be going over how to plant your beet seeds in the ground. So, the first thing that we're going to do before we put our beet seeds in the ground is prepare our soil. The most important thing when growing is how you prepare your soil. What do you do to prepare your soil for success? For growing whatever crop that you're going to want to grow, you need soil. You need good soil. So whatever we had planted here before took nutrients out of the soil. So we always want to replace it. So the first thing that I do is add some nutrients back. And I have my mix that I make, which is worm castings, compost, and organic fertilizer. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to put this down in the ground and we're going to mix it in, and then we'll start planting our seed. So what I have here is my pre-mix. I'm just going to add this to the top of the soil. I'm going to use my rake and I'm going to mix it in. So we have it added to the soil. Next step, use the rake, mix it in. Now that we have our soil prepared, the next thing that we're going to do is get our beet seeds. So beets is one of those crops that either you love it or you hate it. Now, a lot of people that don't like beets is because they've only tasted the store-bought ones. If you grow your own beets from seed, I guarantee you they'll be a lot more tastier. They'll be sweeter, fresher. Yeah, it's a good chance you may actually like them, or you may not. You may just not like beets. One thing that you want to take into account when growing your beets or deciding whether to grow beets is nutritional value and the way that they store. Beets is very high in antioxidants. They're high in vitamin A, and they're high in vitamin K. They're also a good blood detoxifier. Also, they store well. They can store in your refrigerator for months, and they can well. So beets is one of those things that even if you don't like it per se, it'd be good to grow it because the benefit that it has for you and it has for your family. So let's get these beet seeds in the ground. What I have here is my handy hand shovel, and what I'm gonna do is make some rows with my shovel, hand shovel, and I'm going to put the beet seeds down the row. What we're going to discuss next is the proper spacing when we put our seeds in the rows. Now, as far as the rows are concerned, we want to make sure that they're about 4 inches apart. So you can get you a ruler to make sure that your rows are 4 inches apart. So what I like to do is get my seeds and just put them down the row, and then once they sprout up, then I will thin them to 4 inches. Now, since we're talking about thinning, there's a big topic when it comes to beets, whether to thin them or not. If you don't have any experience growing beets or you're new to gardening, I would definitely recommend that you thin your beets out, because if your soil is not where it needs to be in reference to nutrients, then you may struggle a little bit if you plant them too close together. If you space them out, then you can have a lot more success with a newer garden. Another thing that we need to talk about is the actual beet seed is a cluster of seeds. So one beet seed that we have here is actually more than one seed. This seed, once we put it down, is going to produce more than one sprout. So that's one thing to remember. Only because you put one seed down, you're going to actually see from that one spot, you're going to see more than one plant or one sprout pop up. So only because you put one seed down doesn't necessarily mean that only one plant is going to come up. So, but if you have experience and you've done this before, you know how to manage your soil nutrients, then you can actually plant closer. I actually like planting seeds and plants closer, but you really have to manage your soil if you're going to do that. So we've planted our seeds in the soil. The next step is to cover them up. Now the depth that we want to make sure that they're covered is about 1/2 inch. The general rule of thumb that I give people is the first line on your finger is 1 inch. The nail, the end of your nail is about 1/2 inch. So if you just stick your finger there, then you can measure that that's about 1/2 inch. What you don't want to do is plant them too deep. You don't want them to be 4 inches down, and you don't want them to be too shallow within a couple centimeters of the top of the soil. The reason being is because the soil at that level dries out. If you go too deep, then the seed, when it sprouts, it will have to travel up too far to get to the top of the soil. So we got our seeds in the ground. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to water. So it's very important at this stage that we make sure that we don't wash away our seeds. We just put them in nice rows, and we want them to stay there. So like we discussed in the other videos, when it comes to watering, you want to make sure you're not puddling. There's not big water puddles, or you're not using a water hose with an end that has a sprayer on it that's going to wash away your soil, which is going to wash away your seeds. And then they'll still be in the soil, but you'll notice when they sprout up, they won't be in the lines that you put them in. So a method that I use is this pass-by method. I don't keep the water hose over the soil. I just continue to sweep by, making sure that I'm not creating water puddles. And if I do, I just turn it off. Let the water settle down. And then once the water settles down, then I'll water some more. Now that we watered our seeds in, the next thing is managing them once they sprout up. They're going to sprout up in about 7 days, depending on the soil temperature. If you some area where up north it's already cold up there, down south we're still in the 80s, 70s. So about 7 days. The colder you are, the little longer it's going to take for the seed to sprout up. But once they sprout up, if you're going to choose to thin them out, then you want to thin them out when they're around 2 inches in height. And then you want to do your second thinning when they're between 4 to 6 inches. The next thing that I encourage people to do is mulch. Mulching is very important for beets because beets need moist soil. If you're not a gardener that's going to water your garden like a religion every day, all the time, stay on it, then mulching is important. Because if you go days where you may forget, then the mulch will make sure that the soil don't dry out all the way. It'll help give you a little breathing room or a grace period as far as watering. Now, the thing about moist soil with beets is if the soil dries out, then the skin actually starts to harden up as the beet develops. That can make the beetroot woody. That's not good for the taste. The more tender the root is, the better it's going to be for taste. So we want to keep our soil moist. Another thing that I forgot to mention earlier is beets need sunlight. So it's very important that you put your bed or you put your beets somewhere where they're going to get about 6 to 8 hours of sun. The beet leaves actually draw in the energy from the sun, and that energy is sent down into the beet root, and that helps to grow and develop the beet root. So it's very important that you have adequate sunlight for your beet. Now, a lot of people may be wondering why even grow beets. You can buy them from the store, you can buy them organically, they're not that expensive. I always tell people that the reason why we grow is to prepare ourselves for a day where we can't go to the store. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has taught us and has mentioned on several lectures that famine is going to visit America, and we can see it setting up. So what better way to protect you and your family from a food shortage than to be able to grow your own food? And beets is one of those things that you can grow. Like I said earlier, it can store well, and it's nutritional for your health, which is good for you and your family. So that is a very important reason why you should be striving and learning to grow your own food. You want to start practicing now. Start making all your mistakes now. Get those mistakes out of the way so when that day comes, you don't have to worry about mistakes. You don't have to worry about a crop not showing up or doing what you thought it was going to do. You will be able to grow it the way it's supposed to grow, and you'll have success, and your family will have security. I hope this video helps you with success with your beets for this growing season. Remember, if this video helps you out, hit the like button and hit the subscribe button so you can get more videos like this. And remember, success starts with a successful attitude. Peace.